Is the next generation Switch console going to be backwards compatible? Today, a article dropped by the VGC by way of Andy Robertson, who previously talked about the Project Q, the PlayStation 5 Slim with the detachable disk drive, and the PS5 Pro. And he's come here to talk about sources saying Nintendo targets 2024 with next generation console. Key partners have development kits ahead of planned launch, sources tell VGC. It's specifically right here where he talks about other details such as backwards compatibility support for Switch games. Physical and digital remain unclear. Nintendo says it wants to convert as many Switches, 100 million plus user base as possible, to this next system, although some third-party publishers have said to have expressed concern that legacy support for Switch games can negatively affect sales to next generation titles. It's honestly this back half here saying negatively affects Switch sales. It's kind of weird to say because I'm not sure where quote third-party partners are coming from with this, because the PS5 is backwards compatible with PlayStation 4 games, and does that really negatively affect PS5 games? I don't really think so. Just the notion of saying backwards compatibility negatively affects next gen titles is kind of weird, because helps in general getting people into the ecosystem and people transferring over from the previous generation. So I don't see where this whole negatively affects sales is coming from. Even if they have numbers that we don't have, from what we have seen, from what partners have talked about, even on the Switch, Ubisoft, for example, specifically talked about Mario Rabbids 2. They were a little bit disappointed with the sales, and Nintendo themselves were like, why don't you put this on the next generation console? I don't know if it's going to be called Switch, let's be real here. They chose to put it on the current Switch, which tells me, because let's say the next generation console isn't backwards compatible, then why would Ubisoft put it on the current gen if they don't feel confident that it's going to be backwards? For the record, I think 100% it's probably going to be backwards compatible, but it's not a guaranteed thing. Like, Nintendo can easily just be like, no, it's not going to be it, we're doing something a little bit different, wacky, whatever. You know, it's Nintendo, they're known for doing the wacky thing. A lot of people gave the Switch a pass for not being backwards compatible with the Wii U, just judging by the medium standpoint. I mean, if you want to look at the past patterns with Nintendo, the DSi isn't backwards compatible with the GBA, even though the DS and DS Lite is. I see this a lot on X, that people are just 100% convinced that it's backwards compatible. Now, I for one will love for it to be backwards compatible. I mean, I own a lot of Switch games, so I would love to play those games on the next console, make it run better, you know, whatever have you, and just having that library transfer over is really nice and an incentive to get the next system. So from a Nintendo standpoint, I don't see why would they, but at the same time, you gotta look at the numbers. I mean, what is the best-selling Nintendo Switch game right now? It's Mario Kart 8 Deluxe, a Wii U game that was repackaged with all its Wii U DLC. Now it's getting its own DLC now with the Booster Course Pass. So from a financial standpoint, I mean, let's be real here. Shinkawa Furukawa is a numbers guy. He's a businessman, so he's gonna look at the numbers and what sells. But at the same time, it's one of those things where the next console is what we think it is, a better Switch with better specs, better Joy-Cons, obviously. Then why wouldn't it be backwards compatible? It's definitely a 60-40 split in my mind, leaning more towards 60 being a backwards compatible, but at the end of the day, it's Nintendo, which is why I'm being a little bit cautious about this and not 100% snapping my approval as everybody else saying, yes, it's gonna be backwards compatible, because we have to just accept the reality that it might not be. And will that affect sales? I think it will. I honestly think of Nintendo's at a really precarious decision with their next system. They're at the top. They're up there as like the top 5 best-selling consoles of all time with the Switch. Usually when companies are at the top is when they historically have done bad. I mean, Sony with the PS3, Microsoft with the Xbox One. So it's gonna be really interesting what they do, and if the rumors are correct and that 2024 is when we're getting the next generation Nintendo console, we don't have to wait long, and I hope so. I generally think the time frame will be, the article itself stated second half of 2024. I subscribe to that belief as well. I also think that this holiday they're going to be silent about it. Let this holiday ride as the final holiday for the Switch, and then sometime in like spring or summer of next year is when they start talking about the console, and then it releases in the holiday. I feel like that's the best bet. that, and we'll see what happens really. But at the end of the day, I think we need to just accept the fact that there's a chance it might not be backwards compatible. It's not in Nintendo's best interest too, but this is Nintendo we're talking about, okay? They're the same people who, you know, decided to do something like the Switch. Remember when the Switch was first coming out, people were very skeptical. What is this newfangled idea? A hybrid model? That sounds weird, you know? This is the same company that did a dual screen system, and everybody was just confused. Or even the 3DS, you know, like they just decisions. And granted, those specific examples I mentioned was during the Iwata era, so it's gonna be very interesting in this new age where we just don't know. We're in uncharted territory. I mean, we're about to enter 7th year of the Switch on the market. And this is unprecedented for Nintendo for a home console. Usually home consoles are 5 years and they're out the door. And so we're in uncharted territory to begin with the Switch itself. So 2024 is going to be a very, very interesting year for Nintendo. We'll see. I mean, this is getting into a whole other topic, like what is it going to launch, and like the price and all that. We can talk about that. Like this video if you really want to see something like that from me doing a bit of crystal ball predictions, theory list of like the price, the time, the launch games, any of that. Subscribe if you haven't already, and ring that bell for notifications for more videos like these. Comment down below what you guys think is next for Nintendo. Do you think what everything Andy Robertson said here in the article is true, that the Switch might not be backwards compatible? It's gonna launch with an LCD screen, what have you? I would love to hear what you have to say. But that being said, this has been Moawe signing out.